Thank you very much for being with us today.
Me.
And please tell us about the office. What does it do, and why were you created?
Sure. So, I mean, if you look at young people around the world, young people are energetic and passionate. They use technology, to an extent that nobody has before, and they're driving global events. And I think the Secretary realized the importance of engaging young people as important civic and political actors to make sure that we are using their voice, that energy, that passion as we take on some of the world's challenges.
What types of programs do you have for the young people worldwide?
So through the history of the State Department, we've always done many youth programs. We've always done exchanges. We've done English language training programs. We've done cultural and music programs to make sure that we're building the capacity of young people all around the world. Mm-hmm. I think what my office has focused on is increasing economic opportunities for young people, giving young people a voice, so providing them leadership opportunities, but also direct engagement with policymakers, mm-hmm. Both at the State Department and in multilateral institutions, and ensuring that young people, that youth issues are a focus of our bilateral and multilateral engagement.
How do you communicate with the youth inside the countries? What tools and mechanisms do you use for that?
That's a great question. So we, first and foremost, our colleagues in the field, our Foreign Service officers, are the first point of contact. They engage with young people directly all the time. In addition to that, we use social media tools. I mean, we wouldn't be a youth office if we didn't. So we have a Facebook page, which is Global Youth @State. And we put a lot of resources out there because we want to have a conversation with young people. I tweet, so my Twitter handle is my first name, Zeenat. And then in terms of the mechanisms at our embassies, we've set up youth councils. So we've set up basically leadership councils of young people who engage directly with our ambassador and the other leadership of our embassies to tell us what are the issues of concern in their area, to work on projects together, and to tell us what they think about our policies and what are they worried about, what are they thinking about.
What are some of the major issues that come up usually during the concerns or when they express their concerns? So
I think the mandate of having a global youth issues office is that it's exciting because it's global and I get to go all over the world and meet young people. I think the challenge is that young people face different issues in the areas that they live in. So I was just in Latin America. I went to Mexico and El Salvador, and countering violence is a theme that is resonant across youth councils. But all of the youth groups actually that I met there. So how do you make sure that young people don't enter gangs? How do you protest against the violence that's just surrounding the communities that these young people live in? In places like Latvia, we actually worked with our youth council to do an e-democracy platform. So they crowdsourced ideas, and policymakers agreed to address the ideas that young people had. To address the issues that young people had if they got 10,000 signatures. Yeah. So they're innovating in their own spaces, and I think it's different depending on what country I'm in and what region I'm in.
And earlier in our conversation, you mentioned that there was a youth council meeting for the Caucasus. Could you tell us about that? When was it created, if you know the background of the council?
Sure. So we don't have a formal youth council yet. So we don't have a formal youth council yet in Georgia, but we did a Caucasus Youth Council. Our embassy helped support it in August. And this was young leaders from Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia who got together and talked about policy concerns. And those policy concerns were then adopted by the CYC General Assembly by majority vote. And those policy recommendations were sent forward to policymakers within those countries.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And the final question, how do you usually measure your success? How do you know that what you're doing is achieving the goals that were set for the initial
It's the $1 million question. I think success for me is focused on outcomes and not outputs. So it's, have I used the convening power, the partnership capability of the State Department to provide concrete skill sets that young people can use around leadership, around civic participation, around political participation. You know, it's also engaging the private sector to create economic opportunities. So has a young person's life been improved by doing an internship or a vocational training or things like that? So I'm really focused on how am I changing the lives of the young people that our programs are impacting. I think policy is a long game. You know, I think when you think about changing policy, that takes sometimes years. But I think what I'm seeing right away are the ways that we're empowering young people to be the agents of change in their communities that they already are.
Yeah.
We're just helping.
Well, I really appreciate you coming
so much,
in, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.